Yo, what's up guys? Snap here. Today we're going to be talking all about the Druggery Support. It is, in fact, I think, in my opinion, the most broken support we have ever concocted in PoE history. It goes right alongside the most broken item in PoE history, which is, of course, is Sap of the Seasons. This was also nerfed hours after I posted this video, capped at 200%, but the item is still very, very broken. I'll explain to you why and how this character is going to be providing you the most damage possible in a 6-man. So if you're unfamiliar with how a Druggery support works, basically the Druggery belt gives you life recovery from flasks to your allies. You can stack a bunch of life recovery on the tree with these nodes on the tree, as well as cluster jewels, a couple of items that help like Belly of the Beast, for example, and you chug a life flask and you get 42,000 life recovery, which is broken. You can then take all of that recovery, give it to all of your allies, and it enables stuff like Sap of the Seasons. Sap of the Seasons gives you penetration per mana burn up to a max of 200%, but you take the Keystone, Blood-Soaked Blade, which gives you life burn instead of mana burn. Therefore, the regen from this flask is going to be adding against the degen from the life burn, and you can basically sustain maximum stacks all the time for that juicy 200% pen. Now, this is not a new concept. I've spoken about this before, of course, in this video, but this is only half of what this support is capable of. It is time to talk about Pyroclast Mine of Sabotage. Now, I have to shout out Fabi here in Halo's Discord. He's really the one that brought this to my attention. He's been a big proponent of this skill, and I didn't really look into it until he brought it up. And he pointed out to me, and I didn't really realize this, that this is the only mine debuff that scales the maximum buff with level. So Pyroclast Mine adds fire damage to nearby enemies up to a cap, 37 to 56, for example. But the fire damage max stack increases per level, which is unique to this mine only. If we look at the Stormblast mine debuff, for example, there's a cap of 150% increased damage taken, which of course is very, very powerful, but there is no way to scale that cap. Pyroclast Mine, on the other hand, increases the maximum cap per level. And if you're building a dedicated support around it, it's not hard to get into like level 35, 36, maybe even 38 with good gear. And that equates to 4,500 to 6,800 fire damage flat. That's like having 10 bows or 20 bows equipped at once in terms of flat damage. And so this does a lot of things for the party. One, it solves flat damage, which is a thing that Replica Dreamfeather struggles with. So it's a perfect complement to an armor stacker carry to provide a ton of flat damage that it's sorely lacking. And also this mine is super easy to cap out. You do not need a lot of aura effect, which means that the tree investment is very low in terms of the mine support. So we have taken Pyroclast Mine and incorporated it onto a Druggery support to make a support character that, one, gives your whole team 40,000, maybe even 50,000 recovery per second, and two, adds up to like 5,000 average flat fire damage, which is just like crazy. You have to understand just how crazy this is. Here I have a max built Wrath Aura bot. It's giving 1,091 flat lightning, and Smite is giving you 1,016. And that's the top end, right? Because the low end on lightning is like 68 or 52. So the average is like 500 lightning damage, right? So that's like 1,000 lightning damage. And that's a fully juiced aura bot with Smite and Wrath, 2 damage auras. And that is 1/6 the damage that the Pyroclast Mine can put out. It's like having 12 damage auras on you from an aura bot. Now, hopefully I've sold you on Pyroclast Mine of Sabotage and why it's so broken. And very quickly, we can go over all of the things that enable this character to hit the cap on Pyroclast Mine and where it's getting all of the sources of max levels. So real quickly, the build, of course, as I mentioned before, is grabbing all of the flask stuff on the tree. The life recovery here, very respectable 42k. You can get it higher, but you do need to cut a little bit to get aura effect here, and then also the mine cluster over here. Currently in this POB, we're running a level 36 Pyroclast Mine of Sabotage. So quickly, all of the sources of plus level, we have Dark Seer for +2. We have a Replica Dragon Fang for +3 of Pyroclast Mine, and the majority of the heavy lifting here is done by March of the Legion. Of course, corruptions are preferred here. You can get a +2 to trap or mine gems because it is a mine, so this corruption that is kind of normally useless is actually very useful for us. This is a pretty easy and obtainable +7, and then of course, you link Pyroclast Mine of Sabotage to a level 4 in power. That alone puts you at level 36, which is very, very respectable. The only upgrade you could really do from here is to get a +4 March of the Legion and maybe like a level 5 in power, but those are obviously like dream upgrades. You're probably not going to be getting these things. And the only aura effect you really need to make this work is just the one cluster here by Ranger that's convenient. And then of course you need to make it so that your mines have increased ore effect here. Depending on how much your carry is freezing and how bad your mines are getting hit by damage, like persistent damage, you might need to take the mines cannot be damaged, notable here. Otherwise, if you think the stuff's dying quick enough, you really don't need that. You can just take the 30% increased effect of mines here. So this character is throwing mines for 6,000 flat fire damage, giving you all the recovery, and now it just has to worry about its personal defenses. One thing to mention about the Druggery is that it itself does not get the recovery from the Druggery, so you need to have a source of life recovery on your own. I think the best way of doing this is pathing over to Eternal Youth to get life recharge, and then you can basically give yourself Vault Discipline constantly using a Triumvirate Authority with a reduced soul gain prevention so that you have really high uptime on the Vault Discipline. Duresso's Courage giving you a bunch of free block chance with low investment. Maw of Conquest is of course giving you a ton of recoup because, as I mentioned before, self-recovery is a bit of a problem because you can't really give yourself life flask, you can't leech, and so recoup and then life recharge are kind of the main mechanics you have to work with for your own personal life recovery. One last source of life recovery you can have here is Flagellance on your 3 flasks here, and then you can take the flask wheel here that gives you 4% life per flask you use here. All 3 of these should really help with your recovery layers, since it's the thing that's really the most concerning about this build. Now, of course, in order to make the Druggery stuff work, you have to be a Pathfinder. Master Surgeon is mandatory here. This in turn will also make it so all of your teammates have a never-ending life flask, which they can then convert to a never-ending ES flask. This is the reason why you have Sorrow of the Divine on a lot of these other characters, is because they're converting the life recovery from flasks from the Druggery over to ES recovery so they can have extra EHP pool because they have ES from a Mana Guardian. And so this is how you achieve crazy damage numbers on any carry. You add this much fire damage to any character, it's going to do billions of damage. And yeah, this build probably takes the cake for one of the most broken supports in the game right now. There is a variant of this build you can play in 3-man that fits in Cries, it fits in the Druggery, and it fits in Pyroclast mines, albeit a slightly lower level, but it manages to fit all of the most powerful aspects of all 3 of those builds into one character. I'll be linking the 3-man version of this build in there if you're curious for it as well. Shoutouts to Reality, he's the one that put that together. I'll put the 3-man version in there for those people who are playing in smaller party sizes. Next up, we'll be talking about the color and how it's changed and how we can fit in additional rarity with mine technology. So look out for that one. If you guys have any questions, you always leave them in the comments. Try to help as many as you guys as I can. And once again, I'm Snap, and thanks for watching.